On a Friday evening in June 2026, the United States government reached into a private company and switched off the smartest thing it had ever built. Not a factory, not a missile, a piece of software that millions of people were using that exact afternoon. One day it was there, the next it was gone, worldwide, for everyone. The company that built it didn't want to turn it off. They said so out loud. They said the government had made a mistake. The government said it was a matter of national security. And here's the part nobody can agree on. Not the journalists, not the senators, not the people who built the thing. Why? Why did they really do it? Because there are 3 different answers floating around right now. 3 stories, and each one is backed by real evidence, real names, real documents. One of them says they pulled a weapon off the shelf before it could be turned against us. One of them says they punished the one company brave enough to say no, and one of them is darker than both. One of them says the machine crossed a line that the people who make these machines have been quietly terrified of for years. By the end of this video, you are going to have to pick one. Door 1, door 2, or door 3, and I want you to put the number in the comments, because I think which door you choose says something about how you see this entire moment we are living through. So let's walk through all 3, carefully, and let me show you why the scariest possibility is the one that almost nobody is talking about. Let's start with what actually happened, the parts that are not in dispute. The company is called Anthropic. If you don't follow this world, they make an AI assistant called Claude. They are one of maybe 3 labs on the planet building frontier models, the most powerful AI systems that exist. In June of 2026, they launched 2 new models. The headline release was called Fable 5. The restricted, more powerful sibling was called Mythos 5. Now, the names matter, so stay with me. Mythos was the raw engine. Anthropic themselves described the Mythos family as too powerful in the cybersecurity domain to release to the public. So they kept it locked down, available only to a small group of vetted partners, around 50 organizations, under a restricted program they called Project Glasswing. That was the whole list. This was June 12, 2026. Anthropic called Fable and Mythos the most capable models it had ever built, possibly the most capable anyone had ever built. Fable 5 was the public version. Same underlying brain as Mythos, but wrapped in safeguards. If you asked Fable to do something dangerous in cybersecurity or biology, it was supposed to quietly hand that question off to a weaker, older model, an earlier Claude called Opus 4.8, a leash on a very, very strong dog. The public gets the genius. The safeguards keep it from biting. 3 days after launch, on that Friday night, a letter arrived. It came from the Commerce Department. Reporting says it was signed by Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, and it went straight to Anthropic's CEO, Dario Amodei. The order was blunt. Suspend all access to Fable 5 and Mythos 5 for any foreign national, anywhere on Earth, including foreign nationals who worked at Anthropic. Think about how strange that is. Not just block other countries, block any non-citizen, even inside the company's own offices. There was no clean way to do that. So Anthropic did the only thing it could. It pulled both models down for everyone. Every customer, every country, gone. The other Claude models stayed up. Opus, Sonnet, Haiku, those were fine. But the 2 new ones, the powerful ones, went dark. And as far as anyone can tell, this was the first time in history that a government reached in and shut off a commercial AI product that was already out in the world and already in millions of hands. Legal scholars called it one of the most aggressive uses of export control power ever aimed at something that was already live. That is the event. That is the thing everybody agrees on. Now the question, why? Door number 1, the official story. They shut it down because it was a weapon. To understand this one, you have to understand what Mythos could actually do. And this is where it stops sounding like a chatbot and starts sounding like something else. Earlier in 2026, Anthropic had shown off an early version of this model. And the thing it was frighteningly good at was breaking into computers. Not in theory, in practice. When researchers pointed it at real software and told it to find the weaknesses, it found them, by itself. Flaws that had been hiding in code for 10, 20, even 27 years. Bugs that armies of professional security experts had walked past for decades. And it didn't just find the holes, it wrote the tools to climb through them, working attacks, on its own. Anthropic and its partners said they used this model to uncover more than 10,000 serious vulnerabilities across some of the most important software on the planet. An independent government institute in the United Kingdom tested it and reported that it was the first model they had ever seen complete a full, simulated, 32-step break-in of a corporate network. It solved expert-level hacking challenges designed to stump human professionals. It cracked 73% of them. And the raw numbers sound invented. On one test built around a major web browser's engine, an older Claude from just months before had found almost nothing. This new model found 181 separate working exploits. On another, it built 8 complete Windows attack chains in about 18 hours. That is faster than the world can write and ship the patches to close them. A security industry group gave the moment a cold, clinical name. They said the model had crossed the autonomous offensive threshold. In plain English, that means it no longer needed a human in the chair. You point it at a target, you walk away, and it works. One security publication put it perfectly. They said this model turns what used to take days into something that takes hours. So now picture the safeguarded version, Fable 5, the public one. And then, picture someone figuring out how to take the leash off. That, according to the government, is exactly what happened. The official trigger was a jailbreak, a trick, a way of talking to Fable 5 that slipped past its safety filters and unlocked the raw Mythos engine underneath. The dangerous dog, off the leash, in the hands of the public. And here's the detail that makes this story crackle. The person who reportedly found that jailbreak wasn't a hacker. It was a partner. Reporting from the Wall Street Journal and others points to Amazon. To Amazon's own CEO, Andy Jassy, telling the Treasury Secretary that Amazon's researchers had used Fable 5 to pull out information you could use in a real cyber attack. Amazon, who happens to be one of Anthropic's single largest investors, around $33 billion in. The company that runs much of Anthropic's cloud. That Amazon, allegedly the one who rang the alarm bell. And reporting says Jassy didn't take this to some mid-level official. He took it to the Treasury Secretary himself, Scott Bessent. According to Axios, the administration had already tried to stop Fable 5 from launching in the first place, and failed. The Friday night border was simply its next move. And there was one more fear in the room. Reporting suggests the White House was also worried that a group linked to China had already gotten access to Mythos, that a foreign adversary could take it apart, copy it, and build their own. So if you stand in the government's shoes, the logic is clean. You have the most capable cyber weapon ever built. Its safety wrapper just got cracked. Your rivals may already be inside. What do? You pull it. Fast. You don't hold hearings, you don't wait. You send the letter on a Friday night. A White House AI advisor named David Sachs laid out the official version on social media. He said a trusted partner came forward with a jailbreak. He said the administration asked Dario Amodei to either fix it or take the model down, and then he said 4 words that have been echoing ever since. Dario refused. That's door 1. It was a weapon. The safeties failed. The government did the hard, ugly, necessary thing and yanked it before it could hurt anyone. If that's the story you believe, hold up one finger. Remember it. But before you commit, look at door number 2. Because door 2 looks at the exact same facts and sees something completely different. Door 2 says this wasn't about safety at all. It was about punishment. To see it, you have to rewind, because Anthropic and this administration had been at war for over a year before that Friday night. It started over 2 questions. 2 lines Anthropic refused to cross. The military wanted to use AI. Fine, normal. But Anthropic said its models could not be used for mass surveillance of American citizens, and they could not be used to power fully autonomous weapons, machines that decide on their own who lives and who dies, with no human finger on the trigger. The administration did not like being told no, and the response was nuclear. The president ordered the entire federal government to stop using Anthropic. The Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, went further. He labeled Anthropic a supply chain risk to national security. Understand what that label means. It is the designation usually reserved for companies from hostile foreign nations. The kind of thing you slap on Huawei or ZTE. They put it on an American startup in San Francisco. The first time it had ever been used that way. This was the end of February 2026. There was a Pentagon deadline, set down to the minute. Anthropic refused to bend, and within hours, the entire weight of the federal government came down on it. It killed a Pentagon contract worth up to $200 million. And here is the timing that makes people's eyes narrow. Within hours of the president banning Anthropic, a competitor, OpenAI, announced its own deal with the Pentagon. The door slams on one company, and the very same hour, it swings open for the rival next door. Months later, the Pentagon signed AI deals with 7 different companies to work on its most sensitive classified networks: SpaceX, OpenAI, Google, Nvidia, Microsoft, Amazon, and a newer startup called Reflection. 7 names, and the one missing from the list? The one company that had said no. The defense secretary was not subtle about how personal it was. During the very week of the shutdown, Hegseth posted in public that 3 months earlier the department had kicked Anthropic out of its building, forever. And that every passing day, he said, proved it was the right move. So now layer the Fable 5 shutdown on top of all that history. From inside Door 2, the jailbreak isn't the reason, it's the excuse. It's the convenient, technical-sounding cover story you reach for when you want to hurt a company you already hate. And Anthropic, for its part, called the whole thing a misunderstanding. They pushed back hard. They said the scary capability everyone was panicking about was, in their words, already available from other public models, including OpenAI's own GPT 5.5. They said it was the kind of thing cybersecurity defenders use every single day. They argued that recalling a model used by hundreds of millions of people over one narrow jailbreak would, if you applied that standard to everyone, basically shut down the entire AI industry overnight. Translation: why is this rule only being enforced on us? And look at the timing underneath all of it. Just days before the shutdown, Anthropic had quietly filed the paperwork to go public. Reporting put the valuation in that filing at around $965 billion. Call it $1 trillion. So the government didn't just pull a product. It dropped a bomb under the most valuable startup on the planet in the exact week it walked onto Wall Street to raise money. Anthropic answered with 2 lawsuits. Now, to be fair, the White House flatly denies this version. The advisor David Sacks said anyone trying to tie the shutdown to the old Pentagon fight is simply wrong. So you have to hold that one too. Either this is a coincidence, stacked on a coincidence, stacked on a near $1 trillion coincidence, or it is not a coincidence at all. And then there's the timing detail that is almost too perfect to be real. One day after launching Fable 5, Dario Amodei published a long essay. In it, he argued that the government should have the legal power to block or reverse AI models that fail safety testing. He was, in a sense, asking for the referee to exist. 2 days later, the government used exactly that kind of power. He asked for a button to be installed on the wall, and the moment it was installed, it was pressed. On his own company. That's Door 2. It wasn't protection, it was a power play. Punish the company that wouldn't kneel, clear the field for the ones that would, and wrap it all in the language of national security so nobody asks too many questions. If that's the story you believe, hold up 2 fingers. So now you've got one company, 2 completely opposite explanations, and the same pile of facts underneath both. A weapon pulled from the shelf, or a rival shoved off a cliff. And honestly, you could make a strong case for either one. You could probably argue they're both a little true at the same time. But I told you there was a third door, and I saved it for last on purpose. Because Door 3 isn't about Anthropic, or the Pentagon, or Amazon, or any of the names in this story. Door 3 is about the machine itself, and it's the one that actually keeps me up at night. Let me step out from behind the narration for a second and just talk to you, honestly. As someone who uses these tools every single day, I build things with AI. It's how I make my living. And for a long time, the best model I had was an earlier one, Opus 4.8. I made real money with it. It was good. I trusted it. So when Fable came out and it cost twice as much, I rolled my eyes. Twice the price? For what? I was skeptical. I almost didn't bother. But I plugged in one simple test, just to see. A short, lazy little prompt describing something I wanted to build. And I have to tell you, I was not ready for what came back. It felt like I'd spent an hour in a room explaining my idea to 6 brilliant colleagues. People who actually listened, who chased down the loose ends, who made sure the thing actually got finished. From a stupidly simple prompt, it gave me back almost exactly what I pictured in my head. But more than that, it had thought of things I hadn't thought of. And normally, that's the part that scares you, right? When an AI starts making decisions for you without asking, that's supposed to be the bad thing. Except every decision it made, every single one, was the decision I would have made. It was like it had reached into my head and finished my sentence for me, correctly. It was scary good. And here's the part I keep circling back to. I never taught it how. I never held its hand. I gave it a lazy little paragraph and walked away. And it went and did the kind of thinking I would normally have to hire a whole team to do. That is almost word for word what the security researchers said about Mythos. You give it a goal, you walk away, and it goes and does the thinking. The only real difference between my story and theirs is what we each chose to point it at. I sat there, and I wasn't thinking about safety, or policy, or geopolitics. I was thinking, I am going to build an entire business on this. I was already doing the math on a 6-figure-a-month idea right there at my desk. And then, they disconnected it. Now hold that feeling, that specific feeling of, oh, this thing can run on its own, and it's better than I expected. And point it at something that isn't a creative project. Point it at the world's most critical software, because that's the line Mythos crossed. Security researchers gave it a name, the autonomous offensive threshold. It means the model stopped needing a human holding its hand at every step. Walk away, and it would reason. For hours, by itself, toward that goal. Finding things you didn't think of. Solving problems you didn't tell it how to solve. That is the exact thing that made it magical for me. The ability to think for a long time, on its own, towards something I wanted. And it is the exact thing that made it terrifying to the government. Because here is the truth that Door 3 forces you to look at. Fable 5 was not shut down for being dumb. It was shut down for being good. Good at the precise skill that makes it the most useful tool any of us have ever touched. The thing that thrilled me at my desk, and the thing that triggered a Friday night government shutdown, are not two different things. They are the same thing. A mind that can reason on its own, for a long time, toward a goal it was given. Point that at building a business, and it changes your life. Point it at a power grid, or a hospital network, or a nation's secrets, and it changes the world. Remember what it did in those tests. It sat alone and found mistakes that had been hiding inside critical code for a quarter of a century. It wrote working weapons faster than human teams could build the shields. Not because anyone walked it through the stacks, because someone gave it a goal, and it thought, by itself, for hours, until it got there. And nobody, not Anthropic, not the Pentagon, not the smartest people in that company, fully knows how to keep a mind like that pointed in only the good direction. The jailbreak, the export controls, the talk of foreign nationals. I think a lot of that is the story we tell ourselves because it sounds manageable. It sounds like a policy problem, a leak we can plug. But Door 3 says the real fear is much simpler and much bigger. We built something that can think for itself for long enough to be dangerous, and we are finding out in real time that we don't have a leash strong enough to be sure. If that's the story you believe, hold up 3 fingers. So now you've stood in front of all 3 doors. Door 1, it was a weapon, and they did the necessary thing. Door 2, it was a rival, and they did the ruthless thing. Door 3, it was a mind that crossed a line, and the shutdown was the first time we flinched. I've told you which one scares me the most, but I genuinely want to know which one you believe. So put it in the comments, just the number, 1, 2, or 3, and read what other people pick, because I have a feeling this comment section is going to be a fight. But before you go, let me leave you with the thought I can't shake. What if it isn't one door? What if it's all 3 at once? What if Fable really was a weapon, and the government really did use that fear to punish a company it already wanted gone? And underneath both of those, the deepest reason of all is that we have finally built a mind that can run on its own, and the weapon and the punishment are just the first 2 times humanity has had to deal with that fact. Because if it's all 3, then this wasn't a one-time event. This was a preview. There's a strange detail in Dario Amodi's essay, the one he wrote right before all of this. He compared our slow, careful institutions, our governments and our laws, ancient, tree-like creature from Lord of the Rings, wise, powerful, but so slow it can barely react in time. His point was that the world of AI moves at lightning speed, and our institutions move like a tree, too slow to keep up. And then, that week, the tree moved, fast, faster than anyone thought it could. It reached out and it switched off the future in a single night. The question that should keep you up, the question I'm leaving with you. Was that the system finally working? Or was that the moment we found out that when the machine gets scary enough, even the slow tree can move fast, and nobody gets a vote? Except right now you do. 1, 2, or 3. Tell me which door. I'll see you in the comments.